What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC, here to present you guys with a special throwback interview from 2015. My guest, the legendary Hector Guerrero of the Guerrero Wrestling family. Fred Richani of TSC News. Right here on the line, a very special guest. He is a true professional wrestling legend. He is a member of the legendary Guerrero family, Hector Guerrero. Hector, how are you, sir?
Just fine, Fred. I hope all is well, and I hope everything's going great, and thank you for the honor today. It's an honor and privilege to be on your podcast and in your YouTube show.
Likewise to have you on, sir. Now, you were in TNA most recently for almost a decade as a commentator. You, of course, were a wrestler, the Gobbledy Gooker, former Junior Heavyweight Champion. You've done it all in the business. You are also a physical education teacher, but you've decided at this point to start a pro wrestling consulting business.
Well, you know what? I've always thought about I could help the other generation coming in. I mean, to be honestly and frankly, a lot of them don't think they need any help, so they can go on. But those that'll ask me for their help, and I'll tell you what, I might help them get ahead maybe 5 to 10 years. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about experience, man. There's some things that experience can help you, but experience can only help you. But if I look back at my career, and I had certain people like Gene LaBelle, Luthes, my father, naturally, I can't never forget him. But Eddie gave me advice, because I treated Eddie as my brother, not as my younger brother. I treated him like brothers. He was younger than me, but, after a reconciliation with him and understanding him, we treated each other as brothers. And I really, really enjoyed talking with him and being with him. And then let's get away from Eddie for a moment. And then I talked to the rest of my family. I got Mondo and I got Chavo, that are just great minds in the wrestling business. I mean, we had our own wrestling business in El Paso and Juarez. We were running both sides of the border. We were running United States and Mexico. My father was that good. He was a great wrestler. He was a legend in Mexico and even in the United States. And then also, he was a great promoter. Bob Geico told me mouth to my ear. He says, "Your father's one of the best promoters in the country," he told me. And not because he told me, it's because I knew that my father was great, because he started with nothing and became something. Well, what I want to come back to, what I'm trying to tell you, is that if I would have listened to a lot more advice from my father and from people that I love and from people that were giving me their advice, I would have probably not gone through all the hardships that I did during wrestling. And I could have probably got more somewhere, you understand? I could have probably achieved more in my career. I think I've achieved a lot of things, but I don't really consider myself achieving anything. I'm a Christian, and I consider that the most important thing. But after that, what God gives me, and God gives me the wrestling business and what I know about it. I do have what some people would say, and I keep saying this because somebody told me this, that they say I have an old school mentality. I do have it, but you know what? That's what's worked for years. That's what's worked since wrestling started. And if you look at that WWE, they have old school mentality because of Vince. Vince understands this, and Vince is very smart, and he keeps it that way. That's why they're successful. And I'm talking about the principles. Yes, you add the new into it, but you have to have the basic principles. And those are what's happened with the wrestling business. They've gotten away from it.
Do you feel like on the indies, a lot of people are trying to just ignore the old school? Because I've talked to a lot of guys, such as Les Thatcher, who who will tell you the same thing you told me. At the end of the day, there are basic fundamentals you need to know in the business, and at times, when I go to certain matches, I see them kind of lacking in these matches. Do you feel like some of the basic fundamentals are almost a lost art?
Well, okay, let's look at it this way. Okay, you got a chess game, right? And if you know how to play the game of chess, you can continue in playing the game of chess, right?
Right.
But if you don't know the moves of the king or the queen, you don't know the moves of your castle, of your bishop, you're not going to do very good, and you're not going to be very good at all. Well, that's the same thing with wrestling. Unfortunately, choreography has gotten into the play of it because of the demand of wrestling into small portions of time that are television. And so things have to be produced quickly. So That's the major reason. But now the wrestlers nowadays have lost the art of what I grew up in, because I learned all the wrestling moves, and when we went into the ring, we went in blind. I didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't know what I was going to do, and we just fed off each other's moves, and we made it a competition. This is where it became an art. This is where it became what it is, wrestling, professional wrestling. Yes, it is an entertainment sport. Yes, it's controlled by the promoters. It'll always be controlled by anything that has money. I don't care if it says, well, you can't believe, I don't believe football. Yeah, anything that has money, even the FIFA, even the World Soccer, even the Olympics, I believe it is, because of how they manipulate the referees and how the referees get what they want when, they need to disqualify somebody that's really good or something like that. But anything that involves money, my friend, is going to be controlled. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. And they'll deny it, and they'll say absurd things, you're nuts and this and that, but that's the truth. And you can see it when you can see the business part of it. If you see the business part of it, that's the truth. Now, getting back to what you just said, the younger guys don't know the knowledge of that what I'm telling you about. They don't know the moves, the feed off the moves. Yes, they do, and a lot of them do now. Don't get me wrong. There's some in there that got the knowledge and got it and would be able to go into a match blind. But they wouldn't feel as secure as what they do now before they go up to them after getting together and talking. I'm telling you that wrestling has lost its art. Mike Graham, before he died, told me that. Mike Graham, great wrestler, great innovator in the ring, and that's where you create things in the ring. And that's why I think what you're saying, that you say, what you were telling me a while ago, that they don't sell, is because they don't understand that. They don't understand the understanding of what we grew up in. I'm talking about those of us that grew up maybe 50 years ago, and saw the wrestling like, my God, there's so many greats. Luthez, great Malenko, even Bob Roop. Bob Roop was great too. A lot of people that I can talk about that were great masterminds in the ring. I'm talking about Ray Stevens, even Pat Patterson. You're talking about Boris Malenko. I've already said his name before. Many people. Now the Malenkos, Dean and his brother, they're great. They are very, very good. Jody and Dean, and they have that mentality. They have that understanding. But everything innovates, and everything becomes new again, and they think this is the way it should be. And they're now starting to reap the results of their choices.
You wish that you could have listened to your family a little bit more and some of the people that you got advice from a little bit more. Growing up in the business, they're having that Guerrero name, as much of a blessing as it is, it also must have been a big burden as well at the time, right? Just having to deal with all that pressure.
Yeah. Eddie had to do it. Chavo had to do it, my oldest brother. Mondo had to do it. All of us had to do it, because even Chavo Juniors had to do it. People will compare you. We used to compare it with me. They used to compare me to my dad and my brothers, and I'm sure with Chavo Jr., they compared him to his uncles and to his grandfather. So that's talking about Gory and us. So, yes, they did. My brothers, I would always be compared, oh, you're not like Chavo, oh, you're not like Mondo, oh, you're not like Gory. Well, I would tell them, well, no, because my name is Hector, and yes, I do reflect everything they've taught me, but I have my own personality. When you told me that I didn't listen to certain things, I almost listened 100%, but there were certain things that you'll miss, when they tell you something, or something that, you should have done that you didn't do, that could have helped your career maybe to advance 2 or 3 years sooner. And this is where I'm coming through. This is why I'm putting up this consultation business. People that really are serious and want to talk to me, and want to compensate me for my knowledge and years of wrestling and hard work that I put into it, and don't lowball me and pay me right. I'll give them what I got, and maybe they can advance 3 or 4 years or 5 years. What is that worth to them? If not, then just going roughing it out, and then finding out what I could tell them, and then they might learn it maybe 5 or 10 or 15 years from now, and they say, well, maybe I should have taken that little leap of understanding with someone else. And that's how I was helped. I was helped by certain people that loved me and helped me throughout my career. And I listened to what they said, and I worked for them too. So they were being compensated too by me because I happened to be pulling people in for them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but I'm in the situation right now. This is where I'm at. I'm there to help. I'm there to anybody that wants to. If they don't want to, they don't trust me, or they don't think I got enough. I understand that. You got your opinion. But I got my opinion too, and I respect everyone, and we should. We should all respect each other. I think that too. Go ahead.
And depending on where this consulting business goes, knock on wood, everything ends up very well. If you see it going in a positive direction, say within, I don't know, a year or two from now, could you look into opening a wrestling school as well, or do you want to just stick to more like consulting?
No, you know what? I have my set on a little bit different. I'm looking into promoting. I know all the things about promoting. I've done it before with my father. I did it from scratch with my father because I helped him. Really, my brother Mondo says we're second generation wrestlers, but we're first generation promoters because we were there with my dad. We helped him promote. We did the legwork. We helped him put up the rings. We put the posters out. I've done everything from taking tapes to the TV stations to be at that time. That's what it was. It's different now. It's everything's on the internet and everything's happening. Naturally, you adjust to the times. But promoting was something that I learned before I ever wrestled. And then after I learned to promote with my father, really the first thing I became was an announcer. So I did announcing on the ring, in Mexico, in Juarez. And if you think about it, it was my first language when I learned in Spanish. But then it really, throughout the years, it became my second language because I lived so much in the United States. So, but I had to go back and relearn myself in Spanish, teach myself, understand, listen to my mother's critiques, listen to my father's critiques, go back into that situation in my life. But after that, then, I also refereed. I've been a referee, I've been a wrestler. I've wrestled, naturally, I won't say. Since I began, I started when I was 19. I was about to turn 19, and I turned 19, and I started wrestling. And then it went on, and even that till about three and a half years ago, where I did something for TNA, and that was about it. And then my body was telling me, no, no more. And it's not that I don't want to. I'd love to. It's just that my body it's got a lot of mileage in it, man. It's not the years, it's the mileage you put in wrestling on your bodies.
Did the students you have in phys ed keep you young?
Okay, all right. So yes, it did for about 10 years. Now I'm in a special needs center, which is part of the school system, and now I do with the special needs there. That's part of my other job. So I have two jobs. I have my consulting business, and when I decide to promote, and then I also have my school job, which is which I have a Bachelor of Arts in kinesiology and a minor in education. So I'm certified both in Texas for life, and then here in Florida, where I teach in Florida, I'm certified as well.
Is it cool being in Florida to be in a state that obviously has such a rich wrestling history with Dusty Rhodes and the Grahams in the past, and now to kind of in the last decade see somewhat of a renaissance in Florida. I mean, particularly in Orlando. I mean, you've had TNA in the Impact Zone for over a decade now. And, of course, now you got WWE NXT blowing up.
Yeah, that's interesting because WWE has NXT there, So it's Orlando, Florida has seen a lot of good wrestling. And I always try to tell TNA about that when they would listen to the crowd reaction. And I'd say, well, they've seen a lot of wrestling. They've seen a lot of wrestling in Florida and beyond, and even behind the years of those. Because they've seen great performers, they've seen great entertainers in the wrestling business. Talking about, my God, every name, even Ric Flair. I mean, I'm talking about big names wrestled in Florida, and so they've seen their wrestling. They know there's places in the United States and in Mexico and in Japan, and places that I've been to in Spain. that knew their wrestling, because they've had a lot of wrestling. They have seen a lot of wrestling. So you can't mess with them. Like in Mexico, they have an arena, it's called Pachuca, in Pachuca, Mexico. And La Arena Pachuca, up there down in Mexico, if you could wrestle in front of that crowd, you could wrestle anywhere in the Republic of Mexico. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way it is. Orlando's that way. Orlando has a lot of rich history of wrestling. I mean, they do have a lot of influx of a lot of people coming in and out, especially with all the entertainment venues there. We're talking about Universal, we're talking about Disneyland, etc. There's so much entertainment there that it's a mecca for the family, for vacationers. And I'm sure they have an influx of that, but the core of the people there that had throughout the years that are wrestling fans, they're very knowledgeable in their wrestling.
Now, your nephew Chavo has had somewhat of a career rebirth in Lucha Underground. How much Lucha Underground you've watched, and what are your thoughts on the current product?
What I look for innovation. They do have some innovative things and some decisions and fields that they have tried to explore, and that's great, because the fan is what dictates. You, the fan, and the people, the audience, are what dictate what wrestling should be. And I do love all the wrestling that they have in Lucha Underground. I like the moves, and I don't necessarily like their storylines. They don't necessarily appeal to me. I mean, they wanna get into it, and but to me the marquee says wrestling, right? It says Lucha Underground. Lucha means wrestling, and in TNA also, it's Total Nonstop Action, Wrestling Impact Wrestling. In World Wrestling Entertainment, it's wrestling. It still says wrestling. And as a good old friend of mine, and you guys probably know Mike Rotundo, Mike heard him one time giving an interview here in Florida. He says, "Gentlemen, it's wrestling." He says, "It still says it on the marquee," and that stuck to me all these years. Even that's why I say I heard it from him. When I heard it from him, it just assured everything that I had learned throughout my life and what I stood for. I stand for wrestling, and the wrestling that I'm talking to you about is the one I explained earlier, like a chess game. That's the art, man. That's the real competition. That's fun too, man. And the guys that are in shape, the guys that know their moves, the guys that can adopt to the other guy's moves, because it takes two to tango. Yeah, it's kind of like a dance, but you've got to know the moves. And if you don't know the moves, then he's taking the upper end. And if he's taking the upper end, he outshines you. If he outshines you, he might get the deal that you wanted to get with a certain company. So there's a competition. There's where it comes in. My oldest brother used to tell me, "Hey, it's the difference between eating steak and hamburger. What do you want to eat?" Well, man, I want to eat steak. It's one of my favorite foods. So I say, okay, man, how am I going to start eating steak? Well, I got to study my craft. I got to study, I'm not only by myself and think of myself, but I got to think about other things too. And I won't give it too much anymore, because now I'm starting to get into my consulting. How about that?
Smart man. Now, a lot of people think that Eddie in the States was put on the map either by ECW or WCW, but what some younger fans might not realize is that he appeared on what was at the time AAA's only U.S. pay-per-view ever, When Worlds Collide, which was one of probably the greatest wrestling shows of all time. And I don't know if you noticed, but in a couple weeks, AAA is returning to U.S. pay-per-view for the first time since then with Triple Mania. Is there anything that AAA can do? I know their base is Mexico and they already have that market down in lock, but is there anything right now that AAA can do here to kind of make somewhat of a dent in the States, maybe just to open up a new revenue stream?
Well, you know what? AAA is AAA. AAA belongs to Mexico, and that's if I remember right. It was started by Antonio Peña, seeking an audience with Televisa, and then putting it together, it was a joint effort to make something strong. It was very good for a long time, and I don't cut it down. Very, very entertaining. But but the motives behind it and those behind the motives sometimes are not to my liking. I'm going to tell you this. Look, I'm a very Christian man. Not because of I say it, not because I do it. It's because, the Lord has put it into my heart. Promotion comes from God, the Bible says. So I seek it that way first, too. And there's many in the wrestling business that are not like that. And as a matter of fact, they're perverted in their thoughts and in their ways, and are in prominent positions that that they get blessed, but they're not getting blessed by the blesser. They're getting blessed by the dammer, and they don't understand it. So there's two entities, good and evil, and that has a lot to do. Now let's get away from that. Let's go back to AAA. AAA have great talent, but like everything else, it's always been glorified. Wrestling is glorified. Within the glorification, you got those that are true, those that are good athletes, and those that are deserving of the positions that should be at the top. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen sometimes. And a lot of times, believe me, there's a lot of underrated wrestlers in my time and throughout nowadays and throughout probably the future. That will always be. If AAA comes to the United States, they have something to contend with. They have something that's really mega, and that happens to be WWE. And WWE happens to be worldwide. So that's a mega situation that's happening throughout not only America, but even in Mexico, because Mexico, when WWE is gone, in the past, as far as I know until lately, have drawn very, very good. And they started going with somebody in Mexico and realized that they didn't need that person, and they started going in without. And so they again went in without, and they did even better without. So if AAA is trying to do that to America, I think it'll be good, because anytime you have competition, that's best for the wrestlers, it's best for the people, because you guys get the upper end of it, you guys get the best of the best, and that's the bottom line.
Is there a day that goes by that people don't mention anything about the Gobbledy Gooker?
Well, you know what? The Gobbledy Gooker, once again, I'm going to bring this up to understanding again. WWE had a right. That was good. They were going to do something for the children. Where the venue was, if I would have known the place, if I would have known exactly how that place was, I didn't know, I think it was a Meadowlands or something that's way up north. And if I would have known how those people were, like I'd wrestled there before and knew them, I would have said no. Let's do it somewhere else. Yeah, I'll do it for you, but not there. Because those people did not understand that. They thought it was them. It wasn't done. It was done for the children, man. Gobbledy Gooker was done for the children, okay? I'm not just defending myself. I'm defending not only myself, if you want to look at it. I'm defending Vince, It was his idea. And the WWE's idea. It was WWF then. It was their idea. But the Gobbledy, I'd do it again nowadays, maybe not necessarily the same way, or I don't know if I would, but I would, if I was in that part of my career, and they asked me to do something like that, I would probably do it again, because it was for the children. It wasn't for the older fans that booed it, and for all the writings and people that made it bad to try to get back at Vince and get back at WWE. Oh, finally they did something bad, and boom, they're going to make it. Then they they magnify it. It's like what's happening to one of the wrestlers right now. You've pretty much in the media. I won't mention his name. They're making a big thing of something that happened a long time ago. My God, there's skeletons in the closet in every one of us in this earth. I want to tell you that. I'm sure you got skeletons. I got skeletons. Everybody's got skeletons in the closet. Now, what you do is, if you do this recently, that's a different story. But what I'm trying to say, you change. People change. People turn. People understand they did wrong, and then they'd repent. That's why there's forgiveness. And then that's why there's a going on, is a complete pardon, it's a complete redemption. That's what Christ gives people, That's, people that wanting to understand that. I do. I understand it, and that's why he's my Lord.
Hey, at the end of the day, it's a memorable character, put a smile on a lot of people's faces, and it's a character that people, still remember to this very day. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know what you think about that, but It's a memorable character. Out of all the memorable characters in wrestling, I mean, there's few that stand out. You already had a standout career yourself as Hector Guerrero, and then the Gobbledy Gooker's a fun character people can look back on many years later.
Right, but once again, it was for the children. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for the adults. They needed something for the children, and they wanted to do something like the San Diego Chicken. That's what they came with me. That's how they told it to me. And I said, man, I'd love to do it because I knew it was for the children. I've always been for the innocents, people that are innocent. And children are innocent, man. They don't know anything, and we need to take care of them as far as how we lead them in life, and what we expose them to, and how we help them upbring.
Hey, couldn't agree more, sir. Well, before I let you go, I really do appreciate the time you've given me today. The floor is yours to let everybody know where they can find out more about your consulting business, as well as where they can find you online and on Twitter.
Okay, my consulting business is at HectorWrestlingGuerrero.com, just like it is. It's, my name, Hector, all lowercase. It's www.HECTOR Wrestling, and then Guerrero, GUERRERO. Make sure Guerrero's got the double R, GUERRERO.com, or just type in my name and it'll come up with my website. Also, I also do, just lately, my wife and I got together with a company called ProWrestlingTees.com. And then, so they came out with a T-shirt of mine, and you can look it up at ProWrestlingTees.com / Hector Guerrero. And Tees is TEES.com. So it's ProWrestlingTees.com / Hector Guerrero, and you can see, and I have LaserTron on it too, and that's a character that came out in my youth that I wanted to do something, and when we did do something, it was done for the children because that's when I discussed it with Dusty Rhodes back in Mid-Atlantic, and that's what it was meant to be. So I've always been for the children. I always try to help the children because the children are our next generation, and it's how we guide them is how they're going to guide, their offspring as well. So that's ProWrestlingTees.com / Hector Guerrero to get your tee, and what I'm going to do, anybody that buys a shirt, and I'm going to put it up on my website. Send me a picture. I'll put it up on my website, and I want to start doing that for the fans, little things that they want to see themselves in. If you buy a T-shirt from me and you put it on and send it to me, I'll put it up on my website.
What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani telling you why you should subscribe to the TSC YouTube channel. Do you like pro football, baseball, combat sports, and video game coverage? What about exclusive interviews you won't find anywhere else? Joe Theismann here, MMA legend Tito Ortiz, Jeff McNeil, Frank Thomas. How you doing?
I'm doing great, my man. How's it going, Fred?
Did I mention event coverage? TSC here at New York Comic Con. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, click that subscribe button. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, enjoy the games.